Hello, YouTube. Hello, good afternoon, good evening. I will just spend a few seconds talking just to make sure that we are live broadcasting. And today we will talk, I think it's working perfect. So today we will be talking about Branded by Woman Virtual Summit, which is produced by Danny Macmillan, and it's happening in 2 weeks, I think. And my co-host is today Lisett Lees. Hello, Lisett.
Hi, Augustas. Nice to be here again.
So yeah, Lisett works with different Amazon brands. She's hosting some of the Orange Klik videos. And let's not spend too much time, blah, blah, blah. Let's make sure that people can hear us. Please write in the chat that you hear us and see us perfectly. I think everything should be fine. And before I start, I wanted to say that since you're watching, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and click the notification bell as well. And now we will talk about Branded by Woman Virtual Summit. And today we have 4 guests, 4 ladies. But before that, let's analyze with Lisett, what is this Branded by Woman? So it is a virtual summit produced by hosted and or organized by Danny Macmillan from Seller Sessions, and it has a lot of women. I personally produced 6 virtual summits, and I had always, my summits were dominated by men, and probably just 15-20% I had female speakers, and it was really hard for me to find female speakers, and I'm like really amazed to see this collection of 25 or 30 entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs. So Lisett, you are female. How do you feel about that? Seeing a virtual summit for Amazon industry, talking about where only women speakers are talking.
I think it's really great because what I did before, I looked up some statistics about Europe, and I read that in Europe there are more women than men, but there are only 30% self-employed women. So the rest 70% is men. So we need to change that. And I think it's really great actually when women come together and share their experience, not only the success side, but also the struggles and the times when it's more difficult, because everybody can relate to that. We all have bad days or bad times in the business. So virtual summit like this is really great. And what's really awesome about it, it's actually not only Amazon focused, it actually features different ladies who have, I don't know, designed the product from scratch, or who are working in Amazon industry as well. So I think it will be really interesting because I think there are over 30 speakers over 3 days. So it will be intense, but I think there will be a lot of takeaways for both women and men. So Augustas, I think you should also have a look of some of the presentation for sure.
When men are going to the events, of course, when the industry is dominated by men, they are happy to meet some ladies, and now they can meet 30 ladies online. And today we will meet 4 ladies. Yeah, I think it's a great event. I like this idea. It's an original idea for the virtual summit. I know that someone in US organized a conference where women were speaking. And this event is happening, this virtual event is happening May 27, 28, 29th. So make sure that you go to Branded by Woman and sign up for their for this event. And our guests, let's bring all our guests for today here. So it's Jana from Serbia, Sylvia, Cara from UK, and Amy from US. Hello.
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 Yeah.
Hello.
So that we don't feel overwhelmed and overcrowded, we will just start to talk with Jana and Amy at the beginning, and we will chat with them about 10-15 minutes, and then we will invite Sylvia and Cara, and at the end we will ask some questions, all of them. So Cara and Sylvia, sorry, we will see
you soon.
And now Jana and Amy. So Lisett, what do we talk with these ladies?
I think let's first start out with introduction, because I think I know Jana because I'm working in Amazon industry as well. I don't know much about Amy yet, so perhaps we just start out with a short introduction, like what do you do and how did you started your own business? So Amy, let's go first with you.
Hello, I'm Amy Weiss from AmazingAtHome.com, and I started flipping products online in 2007. So I was just flipping my textbooks while I was in college and thrifting and, selling on Amazon and eBay. And I continued that until I was moved to Hawaii. I was in the military at the time and we got stationed in Hawaii. And I wasn't going to do merchant fulfilled from Hawaii. So I, stopped for a couple of years, kind of took a little break from flipping on Amazon and eBay. And it was just kind of a side hobby kind of thing while I was working full time and in school. And then I moved here to San Antonio, Texas with my family, and was working a corporate job. And I thought of an idea to invent a product. And so I went on a whole journey to invent a product and bring it to market. And so along that journey, I ended up helping a bunch of other entrepreneurs do the same. And since I've been on Amazon for such a long time, I mastered copywriting and advertising. And so now I'm the owner of 4 different online businesses. And I help Amazon sellers every day produce and develop and source and launch products.
That's awesome. So how many products have you developed from scratch yourself?
As far as develop from scratch, for me, for my own business, I'm on number 4 right now. And for other entrepreneurs, I think I lost count. There's been hundreds, of entrepreneurs that I've helped in developing their own products.
Okay, cool. So Jana, what about you? What's your background and where do you come from?
We don't hear you.
Oh, sorry. So my name is Jana, and I'm the owner of YLT Translations. And my background is in languages. So I have my bachelor's and master's degree in Scandinavian languages, actually. So that's Norwegian and Danish, and German and some other languages I speak. And actually, I was a translator. And actually, my first job was to work in a call center under a fake name. So actually, my name was Heidi Larson. So there was I was like, well, I went to school for languages, so I'm practicing my language. And I was like, okay, let's do this. So this was my first contact with language in my background. And then, 8 years later, I stayed at the little startup, which was basically a 5-person startup at the beginning in Denmark. And that grew to be one of the leading European e-commerces. And I was the COO of the whole company. And it was such an amazing experience. And I totally loved e-commerce, Amazon, everything about it. And I've always wanted to start my own business. I just never had a business idea good enough to be worth it. And then after 8 years, I decided to quit my job, and I just bought a domain name YLTtranslations.com. And I'm like, okay, I got a domain name, and now what? What should I do? And then basically I got a lot of really good connections, and then I hired a bunch of people to build a SEO website, everything. And first we were doing e-commerce translations, and then I decided to niche down to Amazon. And I'm like, maybe this is going to be a super niche, but I think it's worth a shot. At that time there were not that many competitors, so I was like, yeah, let's try doing that. And it was a rough start, but now 2 years later, we have a team of 43 team members. I have some really amazing people on board, and I couldn't be happier running on my own business, even it drives me nuts sometimes and to desperation. But at the end of the day, I'm super happy to be a business owner, a totally self-taught, self-made, zillions of mistakes and still doing some. But my next goal is, I really want to be a serial entrepreneur. And it's so much easier when you're done with your first business, or you know how things work, and then just on to the next one and so on. So, you know, like hopefully I'll be like Amy one day.
That's cool. Okay, I must ask, because it's very interesting. Like, how many languages do you speak yourself?
I speak 6 languages.
Okay.
I have trouble with English, so
yeah, but you know, that's what everybody says, you know, but this is what I went to school for. Like, I studied for 5 years. I might as well speak languages. Like, you know, this is like what I supposed to be doing. So yeah, but it's very interesting on like how difficult it is to change a mindset from like being a regular translator and interpreter, later entrepreneur, for like 9 to 5 office, and then like switching to being a business owner. I come from Serbia, which is a small South European country, even though like half of my life was spent in Scandinavia, and like, but it was very hard because I didn't have any support from my family and friends. Like even today, like a lot of my friends would ask me like, so what is it actually that you do? Like, what's your business? I see you like on social media, but I don't know what you do. And so, you know, it's very hard when you're not supported and where you're not surrounded with people who can tell you like, you can do it, you know, because I just didn't have that. And that's a very important thing.
And Amy, can you, so thank you, Jana. I thought maybe each of you could share what you will be talking in the virtual summit. So Amy, we see that you will tell people how to validate product ideas with confidence. Is this, it sounds very interesting. Would this strategy work also for the non-Amazon businesses to validate any kind of products or offerings?
Absolutely. I mean, I talk about Amazon for what it is. Amazon is a sales channel. It's not what makes up my entire business. It's a very strong sales channel, but I think all entrepreneurs should look at all of the potential for sales channels for their products. And Amazon might not be the best sales channel for your product. And so what I'm going to be talking about at the conference is really teaching people how to ensure that before they move forward with an idea, that someone will actually buy that product from them instead of their competitors. Everyone, you know, is nervous about sourcing, putting all of their investment into a product. And in order to do that with confidence, you really want to be able to validate that people are going to love your product, they're going to buy it, and they're going to buy it from you and not your competitors. And when you can validate that, it changes everything about your launch and about your confidence with your launch.
Perfect. And Jana, what you will be sharing with people? Let's see. You will be talking about how to translate your way to success. No surprise.
Yeah, so no surprise at all. So basically, I'll be sharing a little bit of my story and my background. I have some like really, I would say like pretty real stuff to share, like something that you don't hear that often, like about like, you know, how hard it is, like when you just, you know, one day you literally don't want to get out of your bed and you just feel like you're failing yourself and your life, and like how things can be very, very depressing and very hard, because I was not one of the people who was like a go-getter. I was not somebody who's willing to change her life overnight. I was not somebody who would be brave enough to go and just like, no matter what, you know, like as I said, like without support and anything. So I'm sharing a couple of tragical examples from my past, and I'm actually very happy to be able to share that. And from this, you know, from where I stand right now, because when I look back, like I spoke at like more than 15 conferences. I think literally everyone can do that. And if it's intimidating, then this is the job for you, definitely. So everything which is like outside of your comfort zone, definitely to be done. And the second part will be about some essentials which people don't pay attention to when they want to expand international. So it's like ABC of like how to expand internationally, where I focus on like the listing optimization versus the pricing, the localization, and some other stuff which are not necessarily translations, because everybody sees me as like, oh, it's the translation person. But I actually talk, you know, like last time I think in Prague, yeah, I talked about some Excel formulas. So yeah, I think it's gonna be pretty interesting.
I have one question today for everybody. So from my experience as a female entrepreneur, I know that women question a lot what we do. We're often not that confident about our business, and we tend to compare ourselves with others. So I wanted to really ask from each of you today, like, how do you regain confidence when you feel down and you feel that you're not good enough in your business? So what do you do? What are like your tricks?
Oh man, I think that as entrepreneurs, it's one of the scariest things, that you can do. And you kind of have to get up every day and swallow your fears and move forward. It's something that you go through every single day as an entrepreneur. I mean, I don't know about everybody else, but I know that for me, I go through those fears every single day, and I have to remind myself why I am doing what I'm doing. What is my why? And also, I try to wake up every day and start my day with gratitude and think about how far I've come, right? Because we can often beat ourselves up and say, oh my goodness, I screwed this up today, or I made this mistake, or, I'm scared that this isn't going to work out. But if you look back and you look at how far you've come, as well as how you learn from your mistakes along the way, and really focus on where you're going, it's going to make a difference for you. And just, start every day with gratitude and really just take one step at a time. Give yourself permission to fail. I think so many people are afraid to fail that really, it limits their ability to succeed. So don't be afraid to fail. Look at your failures as a stepping stone on your way to success, and enjoy the journey, y'all. I mean, look at what we get to do every day. We get to be bold. We get to be part of this really cool group of innovators and creators, and we get to do what we want. We get to be the boss, and that's a beautiful thing. Sometimes it can be stressful, but just give yourself permission to fail. Give yourself permission not to be perfect. Look at your failures as stepping stones and think about where you're going, and be grateful every step along the way.
Okay, I already feel more motivated. So what about you, Jana?
Me too. Like, amen. Like, I totally agree with everything you said. I think that's so important not to be hard on yourself. I think you deserve to pat yourself on the back every now and then. And if you fail, it's absolutely okay, because I think that if you don't fail, you're never going to learn some things. It doesn't mean that you're going to learn everything like on your mistakes or like when you fail, but I definitely think it helps. And what I found out, that something that I like to do is, like, how when people say like you have to eat the frog every day. And I remember that Mark Twain, a famous writer, he said that, the first thing you do each morning, if you eat a live frog, you can go through the day with the satisfaction that knowing that's probably something the worst is going to happen to you all day long. So if you eat the frog, or your biggest, most important, most uncomfortable task in the morning, then you have literally the rest of the day to kind of focus on other things and to be proud of yourself that you kind of ate that frog. So I kind of really embrace that method, and I really like that. It's sometimes not the best thing to do to yourself, but it's very rewarding.
Cool, thanks a lot.
We will move to other two guests, but before we move, I wanted to ask Amy, behind it's written amazing at home. Are you at home now? Because it looks like a big office.
Yes, I am at home. Okay. All my businesses are online, so I'm able to work from home. And so I'm amazing at home.
I thought it's amazing at home, but I thought it's in the office.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Jana and Amy. Probably we'll see you in 15 minutes again. And let's invite Cara and Sylvia. Sylvia said that her connection is quite bad. Maybe you want to disconnect your webcam and just talk through audio, Sylvia.
Okay, so should we see how we get on? If
yeah, we hear you.
Speaking, let me know and I will disconnect the camera.
So far, we hear you perfectly, just with a delay. Your audio is not synchronized, but it's not a problem. So yeah, could you please? So let's start with Sylvia, and then we will move on to Cara. To maybe you can introduce what you do, and yeah, how is your life as an entrepreneur?
Sure. Okay, so I'm Sylvia Stefanowicz, and I run a lingerie business. As you can probably tell from all these undies behind me, they don't look very exciting, but they're very good. So a little bit about me and my background. I come from Poland. I left Poland when I was around 18. I went to the UK, to London, to study at university. Then I stayed, as you do sometimes. I secured a corporate job, and I was working in the corporate finance and for about 13 years. And I think I always had that entrepreneurial spirit in me. So I always was seeking for, opportunities or ideas, how I can do it by myself. And then finally, it was actually a very random trip to Sri Lanka, and that's where my journey with lingerie started. So in 2017, I started my business. I work mainly from Poland. This is where the distribution is. I started with a wholesale model. So I was traveling the country, and I was looking for different kind of business customers. Then I opened my own shop, and now I'm doing pretty much everything. So the retail, wholesale, and e-commerce.
Perfect. Yeah, and we met you in person in one of the Orange Klik events last year. You were presenting in Lithuania. It was interesting presentation about your brand, and I think Cara is also running a brand, right? Like big company. So it's nice to meet you. Maybe you can also introduce. And before, actually, I noticed you have short hair, and when I look at the website, it's like in my events speakers were the men were dominating, but here long hair women are dominating, and you are one of these minorities. So
I like to be different.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not very long. I had it all chopped off just before I went into lockdown.
Okay. So can you introduce yourself, what you do?
Sure.
And
so my name's Cara. I was years my career. I'm probably about, I don't know how many years older than most of you anyway. But I had about a sort of 15, 20-year career in corporate communications. So I actually worked on the launch of Amazon in the UK back in 2000. When was it? 1999, when it was a book warehouse in Slough, and introduced online grocery shopping to the UK, and also launched eBay. And then I moved into events management and other kind of corporate things. Anyway, gave all that up in order to start a family in my mid-30s. And then within about a year or so of having had my daughter, in fact, actually it was probably a few months I had my daughter, I became quite frustrated with the fact that I wanted something to help her sleep when we were out and about and protect her from the elements like rain, sun, etc. And I had this sort of light bulb moment where I thought, I need to invent, basically, it's kind of like a blackout blind for the prams and pushchairs. And so I created my brand back in 2008 called Snooze Shade. And it's been the UK's best-selling range of sun and sleep shades since launch. And it was an Amazon bestseller since launch. But I wasn't actually selling it. So I did the distributor and wholesale model. I had, by 2014, I think I had about 22 distributors around the world, including the US, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, Asia, etc. And then in 2014, I was getting divorced. And so I needed to actually make sure I could support myself. And when I looked at the numbers, unfortunately, I wasn't making enough money to actually support myself and my daughter. So I had to kind of basically pivot. And so what I did was I started seeing all these ads where apparently you sit on a beach all day drinking cocktails and you just listen to the sound of your computer pinging as Amazon processes all your orders and you don't have to do any work. And it just sounded amazing. So I was like, wow, I've got to have me some of this. Obviously, that's all a complete lie, because working with Amazon can be one of the most stressful things I've ever done in my life. And I think I've got like patches of white hair that I didn't have before I started working with Amazon. But having said that, I turned the business from a sort of mid 6-figure level in 2016 to I did over 7 figures last year. So and I'm back down again at 6 figures because of the coronavirus. But if I hadn't have got myself up to 7 last year, I'd have been in a really bad place.
Lisett?
Yeah. Well, Sylvia, I have one question for you for sure. You are doing e-commerce, but also retail. How do you balance your life between work and family time or free time?
Hello?
Yeah, hello,
Yeah.
we're here.
I've just lost the voice completely. Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. I wanted to ask that as you are doing retail, but also e-commerce, then how do you keep your life balanced in terms of work time, free time? Because it's really important to relax to be able to be fully focused.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's such a good question, actually. And I actually come to realize now, and I think that COVID situation really is helping me to get a direction for my business, where I want to take it and where I want to be long term. Because I feel like I have built something that is, doing a little bit of everything, but maybe I don't have that focus only on one. And I think that's where I really have to drive my business as we move into the future. So I'm actually looking to expand in terms of direct to customer e-commerce. And I'm actually considering closing my retail outlet because, yes, it's so time consuming. Constantly flying London, Poland, like constantly every month. So it's really, really tiring. And I think, unless you've got a very good team, strong team that can step in instead of you, it's really tough. So it's just been really, really difficult. And I know that, if you really want to grow your business and make it sustainable, you have to give something to kind of, take other opportunities that will allow you to grow further. And that's DTC for me in e-commerce.
Okay, good. So taking time for yourself is definitely important. But Cara, what about you? How you are balancing your business life with your family life as you are having a daughter as well?
I love that question. I don't think there's any such thing as balance, personally. I think anyone who says they're balancing their life is lying. What it is a constant sort of seesaw, So basically 1 minute I'm trying to be mum, next minute I'm trying to make sure I'm, running the business well. Sometimes the business has to give, sometimes my daughter has to give. I'm afraid that's real life. And anyone who tries to sell you the dream of a perfect balanced life when you're trying to be an entrepreneur who's running a rather large business, I think is fibbing. Unless they've got staff, as in
exactly.
a childminder.
But I think that's why the summit is also really good, because there are over 30 women who are doing different kinds of businesses, and they can really tell how's the life really running a business and being a mom at the same time, or having a family at the same time. So maybe Augustas, let's now see what Sylvia and Cara will talk about in the summit.
Yes, let's start with Cara, maybe, because I have already, I think, your presentation open. So what it will be, resilience in difficult times. What does that mean?
Yeah, good question. Well, basically, it's about the fact that, the reality of running a business is not always fun and glamorous and everything. And actually, I've had a huge amount of I've had a bit of a roller coaster ride, and I think it's really important that people who are running an entrepreneurial business understand that it's not going to all be smooth running, and you have to kind of pivot quite a lot, and you have to make sure that that you keep going. And sometimes they're building that resilience is quite tough, because you sort of feel like, I actually at one point I had a full-on nervous breakdown in the first year of running the business, where I was a complete vegetable. They were going to put me away, etc. And then within 3 months of doing that, I was at an international trade show and got, several distributors. So the thing is, you kind of have to keep motoring. It's a bit like in the UK, we have like Thomas the Tank Engine, who's a train who just keeps going. And I think sometimes when you're an entrepreneur, you just have to keep going. And sometimes you'll go fast, sometimes you'll go slow, but the end result, hopefully, is you'll get to your destination.
And Sylvia, what will you speaking? I see it will be about going from corporate job to entrepreneurship. It's very common situation when the woman is working in some job and would like to do something. So it will be probably interesting for people to hear your story. Is this what you will be breaking down in your presentation?
Yes, and you know what? For me, the first 12 months when I made that switch, that was probably the most difficult because I was going into an industry I didn't know much about. And especially when you go into fashion, like everybody knows, and Cara, you must know this, like fashion is crazy, complex. But like when you go into lingerie with 300,000 variations in bras alone, this is just like a completely different world altogether. So that has been tough. But I think in terms of the mindset, that was the toughest. Because when you work for a corporate organization, you kind of become part of it. So the culture is within you, and it's very difficult then to find yourself as you leave. And it was very challenging because I had to find my own I, what I stand for, what my values were, and kind of build the brand around it and take my customers on that journey with me. So that has not been easy. And I remember, a few days after leaving the job, I was like, okay, what do I do now? Like, I don't even know what to do. What do I start with? Like, how my day should look like? I felt so misplaced, So I think transition is really difficult, and this is what I'll be covering because you have to be prepared for that change.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So, Lisett, do you have any additional questions to these two ladies?
I have the same question I had for the other ladies. That let's start with Cara. What do you usually do when you don't feel confident to rebuild your confidence?
Well, I would say that in the early days of the business, I probably felt less confident because I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, when I started, there were no kind of big courses teaching how to make a product, sell it, etc. online. So I had to learn everything from scratch with no background in retail, manufacturing, etc. So today, to be honest, sometimes I wonder how on earth I did it. But I think one of the most important things is that don't see failure as a negative. It's a positive, and it's a really, really good way to learn, because once you failed in something once, you're very unlikely to do it again. Again, I think repeating what one of the earlier speakers said as well is just be grateful for what you have got. I mean, at the moment, my business has plunged due to the COVID virus, and I'm just actually literally grateful for what I've got versus worrying about what I could have or what I've lost, etc. Also, build a network. It's really important. I've done a lot of traveling internationally to various conferences and, met with lots and lots of different people. And I think it's really important to sort of build your own little tribe of people who get you and who are kind of at the same level, some who are below, some who are above, because it's always nice to help those who need the help. But it's also good to have people you can go to when you've got a problem that you haven't come across before. And one of the things I would say as well is that one of the most important things, I think, just in business, I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're in Amazon or not, is you need to stay lean. So I think a lot of people, especially when they start a business, they kind of think, I've got to take on loads of staff. I've got to get a warehouse. I've got to get distribution centers, blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. Start off lean, test the market, make sure things work. And then if you've got the resources and that's the way you want to go, then fine. But I literally don't employ anybody. I outsource everything. So this is literally, I mean, I have an office in the back garden, which is a very lovely office. I very rarely work there because I tend to work from my kitchen table. And yet I'm running a 7-figure business and I don't employ one person. I mean, I do employ lots of people through, a team of people who do all sorts of parts of the business. But, you don't need to, I'm not all about arrogance and attitude. I don't give a flying toss, frankly, if anyone knows what my turnover is or whatever. What's important to me is, am I making a profit?
That's really good. That's really good. So, Celia, what about you?
This is so on point right now. And similarly to Cara, we've been impacted heavily. At the moment, I'm facing around 60% loss in sales. We've got bigger returns. We've got loads of abandoned carts to deal with. The confidence is not there anymore. But at the same time, instead of sitting at home and feeling depressed about the situation, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I can best use this time to position my business, and really kind of thinking about my original why I was doing it, and how maybe the vision I had for my business to start with isn't necessarily what I have built, which is quite interesting. So I think for me now, it's kind of this opportunity to maybe get things better for me. So on one hand, it's a very difficult, challenging time to be dealing with, but on the other, this is like this God-sent opportunity for me to really create that brand that I always wanted, and maybe refocus the energy to be. So yeah, this is really where that confidence comes from right now. These exciting new initiatives, the projects that I'm driving. We had an amazing photo shoot happening today with great photographer and some models, and I'm so excited because I feel like I'm kind of building my new baby, from starters. Maybe I shouldn't feel like that right now. I would want to be somewhere else, but it doesn't matter. Like, I'm excited about all of this happening now.
And I would say also, I mean, I started my business just after the last crash, and at the time of starting the business, I was thinking, well, is anyone going to have the money to buy my products? And that was in 2008. So, it's funny how, these things happen, and they're very cyclical, and we'll get through this one. We'll come out the other side. People will still be buying things. They're probably going to be buying them mainly from Amazon, because who doesn't? I've had about 20 Amazon deliveries today. In fact, I've just got my new eco cover vegetable covers or something that arrived.
20. Wow. Nice. All right. So thank you very much. Let's bring Jana and Amy here on the screen. What shall we do now, Lisett?
So now Augustas is alone with all the ladies. Yeah, maybe each of you wants to just because we have touched the topic of networking and having like-minded people around you. Like Cara said, when she started out, she didn't have many people, many webinars about how to build businesses, or how to actually, like, webinars or events that bring people together. So what's everybody's take on the importance of networking and having the tribe around you?
Amy, let's start with you.
Yeah.
All right. I think it's so important. My slide, whenever I have a presentation, my first slide is always, the about me slide, but I always include that I'm a chick with cool friends, because it's so important to have that network around you. The people, like Jana was saying, the people that lift you up when, you're the weird one when you're an entrepreneur. You don't exactly fit in anymore. And so it's so important to surround yourself with people who are going to lift you up, and not people who are going to bring you down and discourage the things that you're trying to do. So yeah, I think it's the most important. And I think it is what has allowed me to, take on having 4 different businesses. And I think it was Cara that said, there isn't really a balance. It's always crazy. And that's true. It is always crazy, but we love it, and we get to do it every day. And it's a beautiful thing, but it's even better when you have a network.
Cool. So what about you, Jana?
Yeah, I definitely love webinars. I love conferences, networking. I've been missing that so much. Like that last conference was in Prague, and where we literally just flew in to be house arrest in Serbia for 28 days. So we made it somehow. And then from very, very own point, I've been living on Zoom, as a lot of other people have. But I really miss the human contact and conferences. I just love to be on the road and speaking and just hanging out and always meeting new people. And what I absolutely love about networking is that after party networking drinks, I always push people to stay more longer, and just because I think that is where everything happens, when people kind of get relaxed, and then you can literally talk to everyone. I haven't even my first conference ever was Prague last year, and I was feeling like I was an outsider because I didn't know anyone, nobody knew about me. but everybody who I've approached, they were so nice. And like my message to all the people, like maybe like being shy or like freaking out, like how do I talk to I don't know who, like just approach them. Like they're all regular people, and I think that everybody wants to share something they know. And I think when everybody expresses interest in someone, this is just like gonna be like a compliment given to those people.
That's great advice. That's awesome. So Sylvia, what about you?
Okay, so I mean, the power of network is so important to me, because I lived in the UK for like 5 years, and then suddenly I'm landing here back in Poland without any friends. So it felt extremely lonely. So I think that's why I'm so grateful for being part of the Amazon community, because it's just amazing to hear everybody's stories, being able to relate, having somebody to talk to when you have issues. Also, like, kind of looking at opportunities well. So like all of it is super empowering. For me, also the support from female entrepreneurs. That's very important, because we tend to like worry too much. We tend to be very emotional. So, you know, kind of to see how others are coping with that is really good for me. What else? Yeah, I mean, like with Jana, for example, I feel like there's so many commonalities, because you come from like kind of the same region of or close region to mine in Europe. So we've got similar backgrounds, and it was just like immediate. We related to each other like, just like that, very quick. And, you know, we had the same issues. You know, you working in Serbia, me working in Poland. It was just amazing to talk about that.
Okay. Well, I actually have one question for Augustas. So, Augustas, what do you think? Have you noticed there is like some kind of difference? I mean, do you compare if the business owner is a female or a man, or you don't pay any attention to the gender? Like, do you usually think about it? Like, when working with me, do you think that, oh, Lisett is a female business owner, or what's your take on that?
Just watch what you answer.
Yeah, be careful.
I don't know. It's like now, yeah, I should be careful now. No, I think it depends where we are dealing with this gender. You know, in Amazon industry, obviously, like as I said, for my events, I even like invited sometimes additional lady speaker just because I wanted more female speakers. So sometimes this gender plays some kind of role, and I like to balance things. But in Amazon industry, it's difficult because it's everybody is like men, and it's usually white people, and sometimes I had even like suggestions, bring more different skin color speakers, but it's quite difficult to find them. So yeah, talking about equalities, but all right. And we still have Cara to share about networking, and then I think we can just talk a little bit again about the virtual summit. And Cara, what's your take on the networking during?
As I mentioned before, I think networking is vital. I think as I said, literally during the day, I mean, living in lockdown is not that much different to my normal existence, because I'm at home, I'm at my kitchen table, the postman comes, and I've got my cats, and my daughter is at school during the day, like normally out, and at the moment she's in. But actually, the other thing I would say, I mean, I totally love networking. As you can tell, I'm very quiet, very shy, barely say boo to a goose. So, I find it very difficult to strike up conversations with random strangers. But also the other thing I would say as well about the webinars and things is I think they're great, but at the same time, I think sometimes people get distracted by a lot of the stuff and I think they spend too much time watching and not enough time doing. Because actually, to run a business, it's so funny. People always say to me, "Oh, have you read this amazing business book?" I don't read business books, literally. Like, I've managed to get where I've got. I've never read a single business book in my life. And I'm not planning on reading a business book in the whole of my life. Well, I might do. I don't know if I feel like it. Never say never. But my point is, you know, you don't have to follow the crowd. And actually, you know, all these webinars are fantastic. But the problem is, if you went from webinar to webinar, you'd learn one way of doing a listing, another way of doing a listing, another way of doing PPC, another way of doing PPC. Just bloody get on and do it, something, and then start learning from that.
Yeah, talking about watching.
I just have to say something. I'm so happy that somebody finally said it. So, Cara, thank you so much. Because sometimes I just feel like such an outsider because I don't listen so much to like podcasts, and I read a couple of business books just because like I'm like, okay, let's see, like maybe it will help me build my business. But I really don't rely. I mean, I don't have anything against like business books or self-help books or anything. I just don't like reading those, and I enjoy some of the podcasts, but I'm not a person who wakes up in the morning and then puts on a podcast and goes running for an hour. You know, I'm just not one of those people. And I'm really happy that, you know, build like a very successful business. And as you said, like you don't have to follow the crowd. So I totally feel so much better about myself right now.
I love listening to all the webinars. I love learning. I love reading business books. I, you know, listen to a lot of business books. But the bottom line is, and I completely agree with you, Cara, if it's not moving you forward, stop. It's noise, right?
Yep.
Focus on what your goals are. And I love listening to those things when I have the time to, but whether or not I take action does it have to do with what I'm doing in my business? If it's going to move me forward, then I'll make an action item out of it. You know, if I read a book like Clockwork by Mike Michalowicz, such a great book. It really helped me in my business, and I took some really great action items out of it. But some of it, you know, is not applied to me, right? But it's all about like, what are you working on right now? And you're never going to move forward if you're trying to follow someone else's formula. Businesses are unique. Every single one of them is unique. So you don't want to rely on, okay, you know, like Cara said, PPC from this person, and then from this person, and then from this person. Take the goal that you have and listen to the things that are out there to teach you, but then keep working towards your goal and drown out the noise.
Yeah, and I'd say also just take a few golden nuggets rather than trying to absorb everything. Because I think what I see as well in a lot of the Facebook groups and stuff is a lot of people who are swimming around in a whole load of mess because they don't really know where to go, what to do, because there are so many options. And I mean, you know, for example, I know nothing about PPC. I started doing my own PPC, and funnily enough, and it may not be applicable to everybody, but I got a tip which I just hadn't thought of, like in the whole of the time I had been working on my brand, which was to actually advertise on my brand name. Right? Because it didn't occur to me. I thought, well, people are just searching for it organically, so they'll find me. But actually what they found was me and a whole load of my competitors. But obviously, as soon as I started, I mean, that has been my lowest cost, highest converting PPC campaign across the world. And that was one thing that got said in a conference I went to about 2 years ago. But I actually did something. I took that and I went, oh, that sounds great. And I went upstairs that night. I did have a few drinks, I admit, and then I went and set up the brand campaign. I mean, I did have to tweak it slightly the next day.
See, it's all about the after party drinks.
I'm a big after party girl.
Me too.
All right, so let's not forget that all these 4 guests from today and 25 more speakers we will be able to hear on May 27th, 29th, 3-day event. All speakers are women, which is very rare in probably many industries. Very nice, very nice.
Yeah, but just doesn't mean we haven't got anything to say, you see? Like, we're sharing stuff that you're going to want to learn in your business.
So you just said, Cara, that kind of don't watch, but do things. So, and now Danny Macmillan and Seller Sessions are setting up like 30 hours of interviews, and people will be wasting time.
Go through the speakers in advance and actually look at who it is you think you might actually want to listen to. And don't waste, I mean, if I'm honest, don't waste 30 hours of your life on listening to 30 people. It would be better if you maybe chose a couple a day that you really, really wanted to listen to and you thought would actually really help your business, and then listen to them. because otherwise, I tell you what, I haven't got time to be sitting listening to 30 people speaking.
Yeah, true. Good idea. Lisett, what do you suggest for people?
Yeah, ask again, Augustas.
What do you suggest for people not to be overwhelmed during these 3 days?
I think I would try to take myself. I try to take time at least for 1 day probably. I just want to try out like one whole day listening webinars and making notes for myself. So I will see how that goes. But 3 days, I must admit, is quite intense. But I think what's really great about this virtual summit is that you can actually, if I'm not wrong, you can actually purchase the replays. So you don't have to watch everything 3 days straight.
It's true. Well,
and it's
final
absolutely
words.
for free. So I think that it's such a good value, and 3 different days with 3 different focuses. So I'm pretty sure like what I would do is like I would pick like 2 or 3 hours from each day, because every day is different than the previous one, and there are so many amazing stories out there and so much good content. I would definitely mix and match like from like all of 3 days, and not only men can have successful businesses, and it's 30 speakers here, but I know even more who are also successful. So I just hope this is like a beginning of like gender equality and all like other conferences. And I think that women should just reach out to organizers saying like, hey, I want to be part of it. So you don't have to just gonna sit and wait somebody invites you and be like, oh, he didn't invite me to his conference. I also think that the women should like be more confident and reach out to people and just find their place under the sun, because they totally deserve it.
I didn't really realize that there are 3 different topics, as you said, Jana.
Yeah.
Mindset on day 1, day 2 is marketing, and day 3 is mastery.
Yes, it's all been beautifully planned. But also, says, I've done a couple of these online summits like for a day, and actually even if you don't necessarily, if you just keep it running in the background, pop in and out, because you'll be surprised how much stuff you pick up as well. I did that one day where I was actually in a summit, but it was from like 9:15 until 5. It was a long day, and I couldn't like actually just sit there watching, but I had it on in the kitchen and I'm doing other stuff, and it was like, oh, actually that's really good. And so you can pick and choose really.
Perfect. So we haven't heard for a while from Amy and Sylvia. Do you have any recommendation for viewers of this virtual summit, how to take out of this event the best, and not to be overwhelmed?
Well, I think, everybody else has given really great tips. I love scheduling stuff I'm a big time chunking kind of person. So I look at what I want to check out. And so remember, there's always replays too. So schedule the stuff that you really want to check out, like something that you really think is going to move you forward. Black out that time on your calendar now. And that way, you can pop in and pop out, as I think Cara mentioned, that's great. But block it out on your calendar now so that you can look forward to it, you can plan for it. And then anything that you aren't able to make, you can always sign up to get the replays. I know that there's a way to do that. So something that maybe there's a presentation that you might need a little bit more time with to be able to take execution steps, and you want to go back and watch that, definitely check out. Right now they have a really great deal on the replays. So.
And by the way, Amy, you have a compliment. Hamad says, my favorite mentor. Say hello.
Hey, Hamad. He's amazing. He is an action taker. He's in every group. He absorbs all the information, and he's always in all the webinars. So well done.
So women can also be mentors.
Oh, wow.
Jesus.
my bad English.
Yeah, let's see if this is lost in translation. That's what it was.
Jana, you need to help him translate his way to success.
Yes, I will translate you to women. Yeah. Yes.
So, Sylvia, do you have any recommendation for viewers of the summit?
Oh, this is for me. Okay, sorry guys, because I'm really my connection is so bad. I cannot hear you very well. Okay, so recommendation for the summit. Similarly, I think Cara, you mentioned this, to kind of listen to it in the background if you've got a busy day. I do that a lot of different podcasts, and it always works. And yeah, you're not gonna pick up everything, but there's gonna be stuff that you're gonna take away. What else? And I think, just looking at the relevance in terms of where you are, what you're looking for, your industry, maybe your interests, if you are an aspiring entrepreneur and you don't have a business idea yet, but maybe you like fashion or whatever it is. So yeah, I'm in fashion. If anybody wants to reach out, I'm happy to chat about that. But there's so many great speakers. I think there's everything for everyone. It doesn't matter where you are, whether you're dialing in from India or from New York or from Warsaw in Poland. It's amazing. That's what I love about this event.
Perfect. So Sylvia just talked about reaching out. I think we can end this broadcast. It was very interesting to chat. But before we leave, please, each of you tell us how can people get in touch with you, and if you're helping them somehow, how can you help Amazon sellers and so on. Let's start with Cara.
Well, you can find me on Facebook I've got a Facebook page called Make It, Market It, Sell It. And I mainly at the moment help small product brands grow their sales on Amazon. So not so much the Amazon seller who wants to do white labeling, more kind of smaller product brands where they have tried Amazon, not enjoyed it, or not done very well, and they want to do better. Because that's kind of what I did basically. So yeah, that's what I do.
Perfect. Amy?
Yes. I missed the question. What is the question that we're focused on?
How can people find you, and how they can connect to you, and how do you help them?
Oh, well, so you can find me on Facebook. I have a Facebook group called Amazing at Home. And you can also find me at amazingathome.com. You can reach out to me anytime. And what I do for people is I help them develop and launch and build brands.
Perfect. Jana.
So we help people expand internationally. So we do all sorts of translations with keyword research. We do localization. We do also flood files, upload. So basically all sorts of translation you need when you get started on a new marketplace. We can help you with that. You can like us on our Facebook group, YLT Translations, or you can reach out to me at Jana at YLT-translations.com. If you have any listings that you have already translated and you're wondering where they underperforming or what it can be done so they're improved, just be free to reach out to me anytime.
Do you help translating between male and female language?
Yes, we have a dedicated team, 3 people for now. It's beta testing, so you can sign up free of charge.
I already signed up, but with different name. Okay. Brilliant. Sylvia, how can people connect to you, and do you help them?
Okay, so if you want to reach to me, I'm on Instagram as Sylv Stefanowicz, or you can find me on Facebook as Sylvia Stefanowicz. So there's 2 accounts there. I'm also on LinkedIn. And what I can help with, I suppose, anything to do with lingerie. I've learned so much. I studied so hard, and I would like to consider myself somebody who's quite comfortable in the subject now. And my advice is not, don't do it because it's so complex. My advice is, find your niche. Even in the most difficult, challenging industry, you can still make it happen and you can do really well.
Perfect. And Lisett, what do you do and how you help Amazon sellers?
I'm a strategic partner and store manager for Amazon sellers. So basically, I can help Amazon sellers do everything on their account. But I like to help them to make their business more effective and running really smoothly. So whatever question sellers have, they can reach out to me.
Perfect. Do you help Amazon sellers to get more female customers?
Well, I can try to do my best at that.
All right. Thank you, ladies. See you in 2 weeks in the virtual summit. Actually, let's
Thank you
put
so
this
much for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was fun. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.